Welcome to Spotlight, where each week a guest takes center stage for an intuitive tarot reading. You'll get a front row seat to a real recorded session as we explore the magic of tarot together. My goal is to create a space where we navigate challenges, uncover fresh perspectives, and reconnect with inner wisdom, giving you a glimpse into what it's like to receive a reading with me. Interested in being a Spotlight guest? Just fill out the application below and I'll be in touch about getting you on. Now, without further ado, let's meet this week's guest. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Spirit Journey Collective Spotlight Series. I have a really wonderful guest today. Her name is Kreed. I've actually had her as a guest previously on my other Spirit Journey Collective interviews, so totally worth checking out. Thank you so much for being here today, Kreed.
Thank you, Sarah. I really appreciate the opportunity. I love tarot. I love all things tarot. So I have extensive experience with it, dabbled in it a little myself, but I love to get readings and see what spirit and universe has to offer me, see what comes up. So yeah, let's get started.
Wonderful. Yeah. So I know that you didn't want to focus on anything specific. So we're just going to see kind of like what higher self wants you to know right now, which is cool because it tends to meet you where you are. So while I go ahead and shuffle, why don't you just share a little bit about yourself and maybe any experiences you've had with tarot so far?
Well, a little bit about me, Kreed. I'm an estrangement coach. So I work with parents and adult children who are not currently in relationship with one another or who have kind of like low contact. I have a podcast on that and do coaching and those types of things. But in my spare time, I enjoy the tarot. I also have a psychic medium that I work with. So I'm all about the mystical side of life. I find that there's a lot of wisdom that can come through the cards for me, when I am self-doubt, I'm in that place of self-doubt. Oh, shouldn't I? I don't know. I'm a little confused. I think maybe this way, but I'm not sure. So I'll pull a card or cards, or I'll reach out to someone who does tarot and say, hey, can we throw some stuff and see what comes up as far as guidance? And it's always been spot on. Always, without a doubt. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's really how it is meant to be used for. I think people who don't understand it think fortune telling, but those that do understand it, it's confirmation, it's validation, it's just that, that clarity, right? So thank you for sharing a little bit about you and your experiences with tarot so far. I love that you've had that experience and it's already something that like a relationship you've already built with it. So I'm going to do my higher self spread, which is 7 cards. I'm going to go over a theme, past, present, future energies, and higher self messages as a whole. I did end up pulling 8 cards though, because I pulled a clarifier for one of them, which I'll get to when I get to that card. I'm going to start off with, this is a little bit heavier of a reading. So just kind of a bit of a preface so you're aware, but as always, I always believe that whatever comes up is what's meant to come up.
Yes.
So feel free to comment as I go if you want to. Don't be afraid to like interrupt me if you need to. But yeah, I'll just go ahead and get started. We'll start with the theme, which is probably one of the main heavier cards. It's the Justice card.
Okay.
So whenever the Justice card comes up, there's usually this feeling of injustice or unfairness that's kind of being dealt with. And, I'm not feeling like there's resistance around like dealing with it, but usually it's like getting stuck a little bit in those feelings of like, why? Just why is this happening to me? And so when this one comes up, the gentle invitation is finding ways to accept it for what it is, so that way you can let yourself move forward. So I feel like that's kind of what the season you're in right now is learning how to accept something really big that is really hard for you. And I do feel like you understand what you need to do. It's just the doing it that's kind of like leaning into the process, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally resonates. I am definitely in that season, and specifically personally dealing with a lot of, I just kind of moved back to my family of origin town, and with lots of family and lots of stuff is coming up about injustices and things that aren't quote unquote fair, that type of thing. Yeah, spot on.
But yeah, so that's the theme of your life right now, is really just learning how to navigate, like these feelings of this isn't fair, I don't condone this, but it is what it is, and to a point. So how can I, like, what can I do about it?
Hmm.
Looking at your recent past, we have the Magician. And I love this because I feel like this is kind of reminding you, like while you're dealing with some of this more inner turmoil, it's kind of it's reminding you where you came from. Because the
Mm.
magician is magical. The magician is in tune with, the higher power. He's an alchemist, basically. He's really good
Hmm.
at taking the situation and all these random ingredients and making a cake with it. Like that's something that you have this ability to take what seems like random things and turn it into something beautiful. And so I feel
Mm.
like it's showing you that you did come from this space. You didn't lose that. And I think
Mm.
it's almost like a reminder as you move forward to look, to still lean on that part of you because it hasn't gone anywhere. There's no blocks here. I think it's just more of remembering to lean on it. And this is also a
Mm.
very creative card. So this could be self-expression in a creative way.
Yep.
Um, and finding like an outlet for it.
Hmm.
So I feel like this is just like letting you know, like, hey, yeah, it feels like where you came from, it's still in you, and you can still use that and lean on it as you go forward, if that makes sense. And I love that. It's just like a confirmation in that way.
Yeah. I was gonna say, on the creative end, there's a lot of things that are kind of in the works that I'm working on right now on the creative side of things, for my podcast. So that's interesting. That, yeah, a reminder of, yeah, all of that.
Yeah, I think
Fantastic.
what's kind of coming to me too is it's almost like the environment's changed, but that magician in you is still there because
Mm.
that stays with you.
Yeah.
So presently, and this definitely these cards tied very directly into that justice energy. The card that initially came up was the Five of Cups reversed, and then the clarifier card that I pulled because I want a little more information is the Three of Wands reversed. So the Five of Cups, I like to call this my grief card. And so it's saying there's a lot of grief that that's not being processed. And this is when, especially when it's reversed, it really speaks to like almost not wanting to acknowledge it. Kind of like the
Mm.
sweeping it under the rug. Either I'll deal with it later or not deal with it at all, but it's kind of like I don't want to deal with it. And the invitation around that is with when it comes to grief, it really just needs acknowledgement. It really just needs to know that that those feelings are valid,
Mhm.
and they always are. Grief is just missing something that once was. And what I find interesting is the clarifier is the Three of Wands reverse. This one is the Three of Wands upright, speaks to being in transit, speaks to going from one life to another, like really, like literally, like you haven't fully closed the door in this other life, you haven't fully like owned and stepped into this new life, you're like in transit. When
Mhm.
it's reversed, it's more of a stagnation. It's more of a
Mm.
being in limbo. And so I kind of feel like, and I don't know if this is correct, but I kind of feel like I know you mentioned going from one life to another. I kind of feel like you haven't really fully like embraced where you're going. And so instead you're just not moving because you don't want to let go of what was and you don't really want to fully step into what is. So you're just kind of in the stagnant place. And I feel like that's where the grief is really centered is like why like the missing of what was and then not really fully okay with what is. So then it's just like what do I do here? And so with this one the biggest invitation is to lean into the transit. It's to lean because you can't go back, you can't go backwards anyway. You can only go in the direction that you're going at the moment, and if you're stagnant that's when you're just not moving, which to me I like to use the analogy of a swamp versus a stream. A swamp is just slowly dying
Mhm.
versus a stream is actually going somewhere and there's currency and things like that.
Mm.
So I feel like especially tying so directly in with this justice card, I do feel like there's a lot of unfairness about like where you're at and a lot of grief that needs to be processed, a lot of acceptance. And right now there's just kind of this stuckness that like the biggest invitation is how can I work through that? Yeah, I told you it was gonna be a little
It's
heavy.
it's big, but it's also so accurate. Like, so I just, a year ago I left Washington State to come to Florida to help care for my parents. And then I thought I was going to be here about 6 months to a year. And it's been a year, and I'm likely to be here for quite a long time yet. And so the grief is my life in Washington and the love and care and all the stuff that I had there that I don't have here. So it makes perfect sense. Yeah. Yeah. Spot on.
Okay. So I feel like the next couple cards is more like what the invitations are to cope with that.
Okay.
So it's the near future card and the higher self message to the near future card. So it's so funny because they're kind of like two sides of the same coin in a way. You would have the Ace of Cups reversed, and then we have the Ace of Wands upright. So
Okay.
ultimately, it's like what you're being called into to help you cope and work through this is self-care. And it's interesting because it's on two different levels. The Ace of Cups is your emotional self-care and your emotional well-being. And that one, the biggest invitation is how can you find a way to check in with yourself every day and see how full your cup is. And if it's not that full, how can you remedy that? Does that mean you need to take time and say no to some things that so you can take care of you? Or, what is it that refills your cup? And that, could be a number of different things. I had a client recently tell me taking time to play with their dog was that thing that was like replenishing. So it could be a number of different things, but what's that thing for you that makes you feel ready to now go out in the world, especially with I know the work that you're doing personally is kind of like counselor work in a way, like that
Mhm.
support. And so your emotional capacity needs to be top tier so you can be what you want to be for them, but then you're also okay. And so with it being reversed, I feel like it's just letting you know, like you're not really checking in with yourself. Not to say that your cup is completely depleted yet, it's just saying that
Mhm.
you're not in touch with your cup to even know if it's depleted or if it's full. And that's kind of the
Mhm.
like, how can we create some kind of a routine where you can really be like, okay, how am I today? And do I
Mhm.
have what I need to be who I need to be today? And if I don't, how can I remedy that?
Not everyone wants to talk about their situation or life questions out loud. And that's okay. That's why my email tarot readings are a perfect fit for the inward seekers, the ones who feel deeply, process everything, and don't always have the words or the energy for a live session. Here's how it works. You send your question, I tune in, pull cards, and record a 17 to 25 minute voice message, channeling what comes through around your question and situation. You'll also receive a photo of the cards pulled, all delivered to your inbox within 24 hours. My intention is always to honor your journey with sincerity and heart-aligned guidance. If this feels like the kind of support you've been craving, let's connect. You can find me at the link below or at www.spiritjourneycollective.com.
Anyway, so the next card is the Ace of Wands. And so this one talks about your energy. So like the other one was emotional, this is your energy capacity. And basically like making sure you aren't taking on too much. Like you're not burning the candle at both ends. Um, I like to use the analogy that when it comes to our energy level, we're all different. So some of us are like candles and don't have a whole lot of energy, and some of us are bonfires and in between. So this card, it's encouraging you to find out how much energy you actually have to give in a day, and then then like do everything accordingly, other than just trying to do what you feel like you have to do. And not only that, but I do feel like both of these, you know, not overdoing your energy and having that emotional capacity, I think that's going to help you make space to start really, working through these big feelings that you have. Because
Mhm.
when you're, especially when you're burning the candle at both ends, there's no time to even like,
Yeah.
yeah, go inward. And coming back to that magician, I just feel like it's really saying like, how can you find an outlet that's going to feed your creativity and feed your energy in a way that's, where you kind of are like tapped in with your superpowers. Like I feel like that's kind of just, again, it's in the past, but it's saying that it's not, it's still there. And so I feel like that's also kind of like a tap on the shoulder, like find something that will help you, you know, in a lighter way, express what you're going through, if that makes sense. So the next two cards are like higher self messages overall. I have the Two of Wands and I have the Devil.
Okay.
So this is an interesting combination. I'm going to start with the Devil, then I'll come back to the Two of Wands. The Devil, it speaks to being at a crossroads. Ultimately, I mean, it does speak to toxic patterns and cycles and repeating things, and then, you know, so that's on there too. But ultimately, it's basically saying that you are at a crossroads where you can choose to lean into the cycles and the patterns that aren't good for us but feel familiar and
Yeah.
easier to just lean into, versus the other path that would take you to, you know, it's uncomfortable and it goes against the cycles. It's breaking the cycles essentially, and doing the thing that's better for you. And so I like to compare this to a merry-go-round, because when you choose the comfortable thing, you're moving, but you're not going anywhere. You're just going in a circle, right? And another analogy I like to use too is like if going from like eating healthy to eating junk food, right? The junk food's comfort. It's a comfort food. It's the thing that you know you really just shouldn't be eating, but you've had that long day. It's like, do you want to make your food or do you want to have the microwavable pizza? You know what I mean? And obviously it's still a choice. And having the microwavable pizza would be going back into the cycle versus taking that 20 minutes to make a healthy meal. So it's that same idea. Like I feel like, and I feel like this has a lot to do with that justice and that feeling stuck. I feel like you're at a place where you know that you can do the pattern that feels familiar and almost like keep the status quo, or you can kind of shake things up, and that's really scary. But it's going to take you to a better place. And so it's just letting you know, like, the choice is yours.
Okay.
And you know which one is the better one for you. So what are you going to do? So the next one over is the Two of Wands. And this one, it's interesting. I do feel like in a lot of ways, this is almost feeding off that magician energy. But the Two of Wands, it's a patience card. And usually there's an element of like checking on something or the status of something or getting like the green light for something. And it's almost like an obsession-ish, like, do I have the green light? Am I good? You know, and you kind of keep feeling like you need to keep checking it. But the invitation is patience and trust.
Mm.
And so I like to use the analogy of baking cookies for this one because it's an easier concept to understand. Like when you put cookies in the oven, most of the time you don't watch them bake. Like, you know, they're baking. You put them in the oven, you set the timer, and then you go fold laundry or do something productive in the meantime, right? And then the timer goes off and you're like, oh, they're done. Essentially, higher self is saying, go do other things. Stop checking on the status because it's not productive. And it's still baking, but it's not time yet. So the more you check on it, it's like, and also, you know, it's funny because when you do check on those cookies, 15 minutes can feel like a long time.
Right. Yes.
Right? Versus
Forever.
just doing something else and then, oh wait, it's already been 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a lot of like surrender and trust invitation around like how can you, and so with the magician, I kind of feel like it's saying put your energy that way. Put your energy into your creative side, into your outlet, and then of course into the healing, which I feel like that's going to kind of be a blend of your outlet and your own inner work, journaling or whatever it is that you do to help you with that. But I feel like it's saying put your energy in these places, in the self-care and your creativity and working through your pain. And not only that, but I feel like that's going to also give you that perspective of like breaking out of that pattern. It'll be easier to break out of the pattern because you won't be staring at it going, what should I do? What should I do? You're going to be putting your energy towards something that's going to be really productive and helpful. So that's everything that came through.
So this is why I don't typically come into these readings with an agenda, so to speak, right? I'm just really like, what do I need to know? And this has been very accurate. I mean, this is where I'm at in my life on so many levels, and trying to find that space of where am I in relation to everything else, and how can I take care of me in all the ways, like expressing the grief and being sad, but also what brings me joy and trying to find the balance between that. So yeah, spot on. I mean, really.
And I love that you, and I've said this with a couple of my other, spotlight readers, it does meet you where you are. I mean,
Yes.
people think I'm going to tell them the future and something they don't know. And instead I tell them what they do know and what they're currently going through. And, I think it gives that sense of direction. Like clearly something bigger has my back because how else? Right.
Right. Exactly. I, there's, I think it also helps to help us to trust ourselves more. Right. And that is, oh my gosh, if I could, if I could bottle that up and sell it, I'd be, a millionaire where we could just learn, because everything that you've said today are all things that I've thought before, but it's been like, wow, is that really it? I don't know. It might be something else. Maybe it's this, maybe it's that, and we're all over the map where if we just learned to settle in to trusting our own gut, intuition, whatever you want to call it, we have the answers. We have the answers, right? And so the validation, the confirmation that comes from this is, I think it helps me to own my intuition and to be able to trust that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, thank you for saying that. Thank you. Because that's why I do this. That's what I love about it is because, when I have clients that say, I knew that already. This is already something I was thinking about, but I just wasn't sure. And then having that
Yeah.
confirmation and it helps them say, oh my gosh, I should have listened to myself, but we're human and we don't always know that. So
Sure.
it's just that, yes, that's exactly it. And, we know more than we think we do, but we're conditioned to always ask and look outside of ourselves. And this is a really good way because I don't know your situation in depth. You know what I mean? I think I remember the last time we talked, you mentioned that you were in the middle of moving or you were, in that transitional stage, which was months ago. But I don't know what you're currently dealing with. And it's not my job to know. It's just my job to like be that channel. And for you, it's like, this is what you need to know. And I've had lots of people say something along the lines of, it's like you shine a light on what it is. And like you were just saying, it was like, I don't know. I don't know. And then you're like, oh yeah, actually I did know.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a great analogy. It's almost like, that dark closet and you're like, I know on the other side of that door, there's light and there's, I can move and I can do all the things, but I'm in this box that's dark. And then a reading comes along like this, and it's almost like either you flip the closet light on or somebody has handed you a flashlight. You're, okay, it's not so dark in here. And now I can kind of figure out where the door handle is and all the, to open the door to get out kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I absolutely, this is why I have such a strong relationship with the tarot. Like I mean, it's just served me in this way my entire adult life. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I'm also a big advocate of like, even, because I've had people tell me, oh my gosh, this was like a mini therapy session. And I'm very quick to say, no, 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 no. It's information
Yeah.
for you to take to a professional therapist who can now help you unpack it.
You're providing that the initial, like you're opening the door and saying, it's okay, come on out. Now we can go to therapy. So, here, by the way, here's a little bag. Here's your bag of stuff. So take that to therapy and go do your thing. Where before someone wouldn't even open the door or be open to that kind of thing. So I think it's prerequisite, if you will, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And yes, oh my gosh, that's a great analogy. Here's your care package.
Yeah.
And because it isn't as scary as a lot of us think it is. But also I feel like as wonderful as talk therapy is, sometimes, especially if you're really good at avoiding the actual problem, you can talk around the problem for years.
Yes.
Whereas tarot will just kind of get straight to it.
Right. You're accurate. That is spot on. Absolutely. Yeah. I love it. Oh my gosh, this is great. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being a guest and being willing to, others be a fly on the wall and be a part of this. Because especially when I saw this, I knew it was going to be heavy. So thank you for being willing to do that and being my guest today.
Yes, thank you again. And I would just tell anyone who's, like interested but kind of cautious, they're like, oh, shouldn't I? Give it a go. What do you have to lose?
Thank you for joining me on another inspiring episode. Remember, your purpose is a unique and unfolding path. I hope these conversations have ignited a spark within you. Until next time, keep exploring, growing, and embracing the beautiful adventure of connecting with your purpose. Stay tuned for more meaningful conversations. If you're wanting more, consider joining our free Facebook community called Spirit Journey Collective, your haven for spiritual exploration and personal growth. Dive into a supportive community where sharing spiritual experiences is encouraged. Unlock the power of intuition, embark on a journey of self-discovery, and connect with like-minded souls. If this sounds like a community you'd love to plug into, the link is in the show notes below. If you enjoyed the episode today, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And thank you for joining me on this journey.